I just wanted
Yeah,
to
she's got a question.
comment.
You've explained it, but can you go further with this vascular dementia, whatever it is?
Vascular dementia.
Yeah.
Yes, vascular dementia is caused by lack of blood supply to the brain. And what can cause or the lack of blood supply is little clots, maybe, breaking off from somewhere and blocking one of the little vessels in the brain. And that normally happens when you have a stroke. Yeah? So it blocks off the blood supply. If you have a big stroke, then it's going to block off a big part of the brain. So you might lose a lot of your memory then, or none. It depends what part of the brain is locked off. And you know, you lose your feelings of your feet or your hand. But these little mini strokes, what these little mini stroke does, it blocks off a tiny bit of the brain cell. And sometimes you don't even realize that you had that stroke because it's so tiny. But at the same time, that tiny little stroke damages a part of your brain cell. Yes, damages, because, and the blood supply to that, the brain is diminished. That part of the brain is diminished. But if you have that happening 2, 3, 4, 5, how many times, the more times it happens, the more greater part of the brain is blocked off. So the blood supply is not going through. And that's why it's called vascular dementia.
How do you differentiate? How can a doctor diagnose which is which? Because then you know what approach of treatment you need.
How do you?
Yeah, how do you diagnose this little bit of body?
How do you diagnose it?
Yeah.
The doctor. You'll have to go to the doctor because you might know something is wrong because that person is not the same. They lack concentration. Yes. So you know something is not right. And when you find out that something is not quite right, you need to get them to see a doctor. Yeah? Now, with Alzheimer's disease, you also need to go to your doctor as a first port of call. The doctor cannot diagnose you as having dementia. Your doctor might say, I think you've got dementia, but I need to send you to the member clinic. So you go to the member clinic and they will do the diagnosis there.
Well, all they do is ask questions.
Yeah, but I know you could.
They don't do a scan.
Oh.
They
And then would you
They
know
just
which
ask
is which?
questions.
Because
Which-
if it's just ordinary, probably dementia, it could be deficiency in the other. But then, how do you differentiate between the one that is caused with by this tiny stroke and the one that is just caused by
And the one that is
just caused by,
Alzheimer's disease.
just by it might be nutritional.
Well, you see,
causes.
you cannot diagnose this as a lay person. You cannot. If you have a big stroke, you know the signs and symptoms of a big stroke. But a little mini stroke, it's hard for you to diagnose it because sometimes the person themselves doesn't realize. They might sit in the chair and they might just go. And then a few minutes, you might think they drop off to sleep. But a few minutes they wake up and then you don't realize that they've got a stroke, a mini stroke. But the doctors will go through all the examinations and all the x-rays or whatever it is and realize that something is not right up there.
They give
Yes.
them an MRI
And
scan as well, don't they? They give them an MRI scan.
That's right.
That's true, that's right.
And
vascular.
They don't, because my dad was diagnosed about maybe 4 months ago in the UK, and so we went to a memory clinic.
That's right.
And we kept saying, so what about a scan? They don't give you a scan.
Did they not?
No.
That could also be your borough
Yeah.
as well, and how much money they're willing to spend. As
Yeah,
far
yeah.
as they're concerned, they're most probably 98% sure it's Alzheimer's. Why spend £1,000 on an MRI scan?
Well, actually, no, because I'm quite insistent about having a scan.
Yeah.
Some of the scans can be quite intrusive,
Mm.
apparently. And so they kind of they ask them a lot of questions, and they do a lot of tests with them, you know, a lot of cognitive tests, and then that's how they determine what type of Alzheimer's they have. And I think if it was going towards Alzheimer's or dementia, so if it's going to be Alzheimer's, then they will give
Alzheimer's
Scan.
or dementia.
No, it's
It's not like that.
No.
It's not Alzheimer's or dementia. Alzheimer's disease now,
So
this
Sorry,
is
let
what?
me I missed
This is dementia up there,
yeah.
yes? And branching from that dementia is Alzheimer's, that's a cause of dementia.
Yeah.
Or vascular dementia, that's a cause of dementia.
And
Then
there's
you have
others as well,
different
she
things
has
that
it, yeah.
causes this dementia. But Alzheimer's and dementia are not the same thing. One is the cause.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that the only reason they would give a scan
Yes.
is if the dementia was more towards the Alzheimer's. Really.
Because that's the
than the
harder one to
vascular,
determine.
Yeah. You know, but the memory clinics are quite good. And if they think you are really bad, they'll refer you to some organization to tell you the ins and outs and to give you support.
Can I say that
Also.
my mother did get a scan?
Mm.
You know, she did get a scan to determine
Yeah.
that she had Alzheimer's as opposed to anything else. So, as this lady said, it may just be your borough. It may just come down to that.
Cheapskate.
Yeah, well, that's the bottom line.
Yep.
I just wanted to make a comment because, to be honest, I'm just sitting there and it's like, I've just met you at the right time in my life because I'm holding back tears. But basically, my mum told me 2 years ago, she had a mini stroke in 2009. And she told me in 2011 that she thinks that she has dementia. And I said to her, well, we should go to the doctor. She didn't want to. And recently, without saying too much, but everything that you're saying about siblings and she's mislaying things and all that, that's what my weekend has been about. And I don't even want to really talk about it because it's really emotional, but I just thank God I've met you because I just feel so much better. That's all I want to say. Because I'm at the beginning of this now. Seriously. Because I know why I came here, because I need to understand what dementia is. But my mum, at the moment we're having a similar angle with the fact that my mum is thinking that she's mislaid this and mislaid that. And I've got my sister on the phone at the moment telling me something, and then my brother's telling me something, and my mum, and like I think that her what she thought she has advanced. My problem is to get my mum to the doctor. You know, that's the problem. The thing is that my mum told me 2 years ago that she may think that she has. She didn't want to go to the doctor, and now from what I'm hearing, yeah, I think that she has too. And this thing you're saying about mislaying things and siblings, I just sat here and I thought, you must have been listening to our phone calls this weekend. Honestly, I just sat here and I just thought, God, it's like this argument that my siblings and I have been having, it's like we've heard it about mislaying something and thinking that this sibling, my brother's telling me that my sister has this and that. I don't normally talk my personal business.
Yeah, but
For me to talk this, you've really touched me. But the fact is that I feel a lot supported, and it's just that this has just come at the right time, and I just bless you for your knowledge.
You know, thank you. The other thing, once your loved one is diagnosed, it's very important that you have a family gathering. You need to get all your sisters and your brothers together and talk about it. And talk about it and say, what if, you know, and who's going to help? Because sometimes it's one. Your parents might have 10, 12 of you, and it's only one person that is left to carry a can. And you need to have a family get together and, you know, and say, look, it's going to get worse. We're going to need help. We've got to work together. Yeah? Otherwise, it's calling. It breaks family. Yeah?
And it's stressful for that one person dealing with it and seeing
Yes.
everybody else getting on with their own lives.
Gone, you know,
And
and,
then-
they might come in and they might say, you're all right.
Well, the fact is, my brother doesn't think that my mom has dementia. He thinks that my sister is doing things to deceive my
He's
mum.
living in
which is
denial.
really irritating me.
Yes, and that's
And like my sister's ring. I just don't want to talk my business in public, but it's really irritating me.
Yeah,
Yes.
he's
Because I
living in
know
denial.
That I now realise that what she told me 2 years ago has begun
Has
to
gone,
manifest itself.
yes.
My issue is now to talk to her and get her to agree that she needs to be
Because they're
diagnosed.
convincing. They're very, very convincing. I know of a family that the daughter would not speak to her dad. because she thinks the dad is doing the mother something. Because when she goes there, dad is so good that dad's not doing anything or whatever. Until dad was worn out. And we said to him, listen, take a break. Your family wanted you to come and have a week over and so. Get your daughter to stay with mom or take mom while you go. And she took our advice. But you know what the outcome of that was? When he came back, she was different because she saw what the mother was. She learned what the mother was, and she couldn't do it. She couldn't go. And she and her dad are like that now because she realized what the dad was saying was true and not what the mom was saying. You know, so it's. But if you can get help and advice.
I think this is one of the reasons why I wanted this conversation out in the open, especially within the black community, because a lot of our people live in denial because they don't understand it, they don't want to get involved, they don't want to find out, they just live in denial, it's not happening in my family, they want to talk about it and they try to escape until they come to the funeral, then they come rushing back in again. And they're like, where were you?
Yeah.
But this is why I want this conversation in public.
Yes, I give you an example again. We were looking at supporting a family, a gentleman. And, you know, he was such a nice man. And she was such a nice woman. And we used to go, and one of our respite workers used to go, and sometimes she would cook and give it for him and so on, you know, and so. And we used to say, what happened to your children? Oh, you know, they come and they help. But you know, he was lying, he was covering up. And at the funeral, I cried. I didn't cry because the woman died. When I looked at the people carrying the coffin, these big, stallion young men, and the stallion young men and women walking behind the coffin, and I said to my colleagues, are those our children? And she said, yes. I couldn't help crying because they were nowhere when the poor dad was struggling to look after her. They were nowhere. But they were all at the funeral and they were all dressed up and they were so... And it's a shame. We shouldn't have to wait until we're putting them down in the coffin, you know?
Exactly.
Anyway, I suppose these two watched the film.